Have you ever wondered what would happen if a being so ancient, so evil, and so powerful that entire universes trembled at his name suddenly appeared inside the Star Trek universe? Not a Borg invasion. Not the Dominion War. Not even the destruction of Romulus could prepare the galaxy for what was coming. Because this threat wasn't seeking territory. It wasn't seeking resources. It wasn't seeking conquest. It was seeking souls. Far beyond the known boundaries of Federation space, beyond the galactic barrier itself, something impossible awakened. Stars began dying without explanation. Entire civilizations vanished overnight. Distress signals arrived from worlds that no longer existed. And deep within the heart of Starfleet Command, the most terrifying realization emerged. Something was eating reality itself. The Borg could not assimilate it. The Q could not predict it. And even the prophets fell silent. For the first time in history, every power in the galaxy would face an enemy beyond comprehension. An enemy named Trigon. And by the time they understood what he truly was, it was already too late. What if the first sign of Trigon's arrival wasn't an invasion, but the death of an entire star system in a single night? The Federation had witnessed countless mysteries. Wormholes appearing from nowhere. Time travel paradoxes. Godlike entities beyond mortal understanding. But nothing compared to what happened in the Argolis expanse. The USS Venture was conducting a routine survey near the edge of unexplored space when Captain Elena Rourke received a transmission unlike anything in Starfleet records. The signal originated from the Talaran system. Population, 4.7 billion. A peaceful civilization. Technologically advanced. No wars. No known enemies. The transmission lasted only 12 seconds. 12 seconds of screaming. Then silence. Open a channel, Rourke ordered. No response. Long-range scans. The science officer's face turned pale. Captain. What is it? There is no Talaran system. The bridge fell silent. What do you mean there's no Talaran system? The officer swallowed. The planets are gone. The view screen shifted. Every person on the bridge froze. The star remained. But every planet had vanished. Not destroyed. Not shattered. Gone. As if they had never existed. Entire worlds erased from reality itself. Within hours, Starfleet dispatched additional vessels. Scientists, diplomats, specialized research teams. Everyone wanted answers. No one found them. The deeper scans went, the stranger the evidence became. Energy signatures that violated known physics. Subspace distortions extending for millions of kilometers. And something else. Something hidden beneath the destruction. A pulse. A heartbeat. A living presence. Thousands of light years away. Watching. Waiting. When the findings reached Earth, panic remained carefully hidden behind Starfleet professionalism. Admirals debated theories. Section 31 launched secret investigations. Vulcan science academies attempted calculations. Nothing fit. Then another system disappeared. This time it happened while witnesses watched. The Romulan border colony of Draxus transmitted visual recordings before contact ended. The footage spread rapidly through intelligence networks. One moment the sky was normal. The next, a colossal red eye appeared among the stars. Not a ship. Not a station. An eye. Larger than planets. Ancient. Alive. The eye stared down upon the colony. And every person who saw it experienced the same vision. Fire. Blood-red skies. Worlds burning. A giant figure seated upon a throne of dying stars. Then reality itself cracked. The recording ended. Draxus ceased to exist. The Romulan government immediately accused the Federation of deploying a new superweapon. The Federation denied involvement. The Klingon prepared for war. The Cardassians activated defense fleets. Across the Alpha Quadrant, tensions exploded. Yet nobody understood the true horror. Because while governments argued, something was already inside their minds. On Deep Space Nine, strange incidents began occurring. Crew members reported nightmares, violent thoughts, sudden personality changes. People heard whispers in empty rooms. They saw shadows moving where no shadows should exist. Even Commander Kira felt it. A voice, soft, almost comforting, promising power, promising certainty, promising freedom from fear. She resisted. Many others could not. Then came the first possession. A Starfleet officer suddenly murdered 3 colleagues before collapsing. Security investigations found no motive, no neurological abnormalities, no evidence whatsoever. Only a single phrase repeatedly carved into the bulkhead beside the bodies. He is coming. The words appeared on starships. on colony worlds, inside secured military installations, even within the Senate chambers of multiple governments. Nobody knew who wrote them. Nobody ever saw the culprit. Because there was no culprit, the message appeared by itself. Meanwhile, far beyond explored space, another observer had noticed the disturbance. The Borg Collective. Millions of drones simultaneously detected an anomaly spreading through subspace. Something unlike biological life. Unlike technology. Unlike anything the Collective had encountered. The Borg Queen analyzed the data. Her conclusion generated the first recorded moment of uncertainty among billions of connected minds. The Collective could not classify the threat. And for the first time in centuries, the Borg felt fear. Elsewhere, inside the Celestial Temple, the prophets experienced something equally disturbing. Four beings who existed beyond linear time, past and future usually appeared as one. Yet suddenly they encountered a void. A region where time itself vanished. A darkness-consuming possibility. A future that should not exist. The prophets attempted to look beyond it. What they saw made them retreat. Even gods could feel terror. Back on Earth, Starfleet's greatest scientific minds gathered for an emergency briefing. The meeting was interrupted by an unexpected visitor. A being who rarely involved himself in mortal affairs. A member of the Q Continuum. Q appeared without warning. Without jokes. Without arrogance. Without amusement. That alone terrified everyone. Picard himself was summoned to the conference. The room fell silent. Q stared at the assembled officers. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he spoke. 3 words. Words that chilled every soul present. He's found you. The Admiral stood. Found us? Who? Q looked toward the stars. For the first time in his existence. His voice trembled. You have no idea what's coming. And somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, a throne of black fire rose from an ocean of living darkness. A gigantic figure slowly opened his eyes. The stars themselves dimmed. Reality groaned. And Trigon finally turned his attention toward the Star Trek universe. The hunt had begun. What if the one being who never feared anything, the immortal Q, was terrified not of losing a battle, but of witnessing the death of an entire universe? The question spread through Starfleet command like a virus. Who was Trigon? What could frighten a member of the Q Continuum? And perhaps most disturbing of all, why had Q said, "He's found you," instead of "He's coming"? The implication haunted everyone. If Trigon had already found them, then the invasion had begun long before anyone realized it. Picard confronted Q privately inside a secured observation lounge overlooking Earth. The stars shimmered peacefully outside. Yet even that familiar sight felt different now. Uncertain. Fragile. Picard folded his arms. Explain. Q remained unusually quiet. No smug grin. No theatrical gesture. Only concern. A deeply unnatural concern. You think your galaxy is important because of the Borg, Jean-Luc? Picard frowned. You think you've faced extinction because of the Dominion? Q stepped closer. You think omnipotent beings are rare because you've met us? The captain said nothing. Q looked away. As civilizations grow, they eventually discover unpleasant truths. What truths? That reality isn't the top of the food chain. The room became silent. Picard waited. Q continued. There are entities older than galaxies. Older than dimensions. Older than many of the laws that hold existence together. And Trigon is one of them? The hesitation in Q's answer was worse than any response. No. Picard's eyes narrowed. No. Q finally met his gaze. Trigon isn't one of them. The immortal's voice dropped to a whisper. Trigon is among the worst of them. Meanwhile, thousands of light years away, the first major battle of the crisis had already begun. The Klingon Empire had never been known for patience. When reports emerged of entire systems vanishing, Chancellor Martok ordered a massive military expedition. Over 100 warships entered the unexplored region beyond Federation maps. Warriors welcomed the challenge. Unknown enemies meant glorious combat. Songs would be written. Legends would be born. At least that was what they believed. General Karath stood proudly upon the bridge of the flagship. His fleet approached an enormous subspace anomaly. Sensors struggled to interpret it. The readings made no sense. The anomaly appeared larger than entire star systems. And it was growing. Bring us closer. The crew obeyed. At first nothing happened. Then one of the younger officers spoke. General? What is it? The warrior pointed toward the view screen. The stars were moving. No, not moving. Watching. Thousands of stars across the darkness had rearranged themselves, forming a shape. 2 eyes, a mouth, a face. The face smiled. Every Klingon on the bridge felt something touch their minds. Ancient, malicious, hungry. A voice echoed simultaneously inside every skull. Not spoken, not transmitted, simply present. I see you. Several warriors collapsed instantly. Blood streamed from their eyes. Others began screaming. Weapons were drawn. Some attacked their own comrades. The entire fleet descended into chaos within seconds. General Karath resisted longer than most. His willpower was legendary. His mind hardened by decades of war. But even he struggled. The voice returned. Show me your rage. The general suddenly experienced every battle he had ever fought. Every enemy. Every death. Every moment of hatred. His anger multiplied beyond control. Around him, hundreds of Klingons succumbed completely. Ships opened fire upon each other. Entire squadrons annihilated themselves. Within 30 minutes, the proud expeditionary fleet ceased to exist. Only drifting wreckage remained. And from somewhere deep within the anomaly, a laugh echoed across space. Back on Earth, reports of the disaster arrived alongside dozens of similar incidents. Violence was spreading. Paranoia was spreading. Fear was spreading. Entire colonies reported mass hallucinations. Families turned against one another. Governments fractured. Religious movements emerged overnight. Many worshipped the mysterious being responsible. Others believed the apocalypse had begun. The Federation struggled to contain the panic. Then came an even greater shock. The Borg attacked. Not the Federation. Not the Romulans. The anomaly. Thousands of cubes emerged from transwarp conduits. Entire fleets converged upon the region. For any other enemy, such an assault would have been devastating. The Borg represented one of the most powerful military forces in existence. Their numbers were nearly limitless. Their adaptability unmatched. Yet the battle lasted less than 6 minutes. Starfleet observed remotely. No one understood what they were witnessing. The cubes entered weapons range. They fired. Energy beams disappeared into darkness. Then the darkness moved. Gigantic crimson tendrils emerged from subspace itself. Not matter. Not energy. Something else. Something impossible. The tendrils wrapped around Borg vessels. Entire cubes began transforming. Metal screamed. Technology twisted. Drone minds shattered. One by one, ships were consumed. Assimilation reversed. The Borg were being assimilated. Not physically. Spiritually. Millions of connected minds suddenly experienced individual emotion. Fear. Pain. Despair. The collective fractured under the assault. For the first time in recorded history, the Borg retreated. Across countless systems, disconnected drones collapsed. The Queen herself vanished. No signal remained. No command structure survived. An empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries had been crippled in minutes. And Trigon still hadn't physically arrived. Then the nightmares began affecting people who had never encountered the anomaly. Picard dreamed of Earth burning beneath red skies. Janeway dreamed of Voyager trapped inside an endless sea of fire. Worf dreamed of Q kneeling before a demonic throne. Sisko dreamed of the Prophet screaming. Every dream ended the same way. A colossal red figure sitting among dead galaxies. Watching. Waiting. Smiling. The visions felt real. More real than waking life. And with each passing day, the dreams grew stronger. The Federation eventually discovered why. Dr. Crusher led a team studying neurological scans from affected individuals. The results horrified her. The influence wasn't spreading through communication networks, or subspace transmissions, or physical contact. It was spreading through thought itself. Awareness acted as infection. The more people learned about Trigon, the stronger his presence became. Information itself had become a weapon. Crusher stared at the data. That's impossible. Yet the evidence remained undeniable. Simply knowing he existed allowed him to establish connections. Tiny footholds. Tiny cracks. Entry points into consciousness. By trying to understand him, they were helping him enter their reality. And then something happened that shattered every remaining assumption. A distress signal arrived from the Gamma Quadrant. Not from a civilization. Not from a ship. From the prophets. The message was impossible. Nonlinear beings did not send distress calls. Yet somehow one reached Deep Space Nine. Sisko listened in stunned silence. The familiar voices echoed through the chamber. But they sounded different. Afraid. The prophet spoke only a single warning. The Dark One approaches the temple. Then the transmission ended. Every light aboard the station suddenly failed. Darkness consumed the corridors. For exactly 7 seconds. 7 seconds during which thousands of crew members heard the same whisper. A whisper that did not originate from any speaker, any system, any source. The voice came from everywhere, and nowhere. So, when power returned, one final discovery awaited them. The wormhole. The celestial temple itself. The gateway protected by beings beyond time. Had changed color. Its brilliant blue glow had become blood red. And deep within its center, something enormous appeared to be moving. Something trying to enter. Something that even the prophets could not stop. As alarms erupted throughout Deep Space Nine, Benjamin Sisko stared into the crimson vortex and felt a terrible realization forming. The invasion was never aimed at the Federation. Never aimed at the Klingon. Never aimed at the Borg. Trigon had come for something far greater. Something hidden within the Star Trek universe itself. And whatever it was, he was almost close enough to claim it. What if Trigon wasn't invading the Star Trek universe to conquer it? But because something inside this reality was powerful enough to make even a cosmic demon jealous. That possibility changed everything. Until now, Starfleet, the Klingon, the Romulans, and every surviving power had assumed they understood the rules of the crisis. A hostile entity had appeared. The galaxy was under attack. The objective was survival. Simple. Logical. Predictable. But the moment the prophets sent their impossible warning, another explanation emerged. What if Trigon wasn't merely consuming worlds? What if he was searching for something? Something hidden. Something ancient. Something worth crossing entire realities to obtain. And if that theory was true, then the Star Trek universe itself might be far more important than anyone had ever imagined. Deep within the Celestial Temple, Benjamin Sisko experienced something no mortal had ever witnessed. The prophets summoned him. Instantly. Without warning. One moment he stood aboard Deep Space Nine. The next he existed inside the timeless realm beyond the wormhole. The familiar white void stretched endlessly in every direction. Yet even this place had changed. Cracks spread across the landscape. Invisible fractures splitting existence itself. The prophets appeared around him. Not as individuals. Not as humans. Not as recognizable forms. But as terrified fragments of light. And Sisko immediately understood the severity of the situation. The prophets were afraid. The beings who existed beyond time. The entities worshipped as gods by the Bajorans. The architects of destiny itself. They were afraid. The Sisko. Their voices trembled. The danger grows. What is Trigon? Sisko demanded. The prophets remained silent. Then images flooded his mind. Entire universes consumed by fire. Dimensions collapsing. Infinite timelines reduced to ash. Civilizations older than stars erased completely. And standing above it all, a colossal shadow with 6 burning eyes. The same figure from countless nightmares. Trigon. The vision shifted again. This time Sisko saw something unexpected. A battlefield. Not in the Star Trek universe. Somewhere else. Somewhere beyond reality. He witnessed armies of cosmic entities fighting against Trigon. Gods. Demons. Living universes. Conceptual beings beyond imagination. And they were losing. Entire pantheons died. Dimensions shattered. Existence itself screamed. Yet one detail stood out above everything else. Trigon wasn't fighting for conquest. He was hunting. Searching. Obsessing. Looking for something. The vision ended. Sisko stumbled backward. What is he looking for? The prophets answered together. The heart. The word echoed endlessly. The heart. The first heart. The cracks surrounding them expanded. Reality groaned. Even the celestial temple seemed unstable. Sisko felt dread growing inside him. What is the first heart? This time the prophets hesitated. As though speaking the answer might somehow make things worse. Finally they responded. The source. The source of what? The white void darkened. The lights dimmed. And for the first time since meeting them years ago, the prophets refused to answer. Meanwhile, across the Alpha Quadrant, civilization was beginning to unravel. Not through war. Not through invasion. But through corruption. Trigon's influence spread like a spiritual plague. Entire populations experienced radical personality shifts. Peaceful worlds became violent. Violent worlds became monstrous. People abandoned families. Governments collapsed. Religious cults multiplied by the thousands. The most dangerous aspect wasn't the destruction. It was the temptation. Because Trigon never demanded loyalty. He offered something far more seductive. Freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from doubt. Freedom from guilt. People who accepted his whispers suddenly felt powerful, confident, certain. The emotional burdens of life vanished. At first, then came the cost. On Vulcan, where logic ruled above emotion, entire research communities fell into chaos. Some Vulcans began embracing rage. Others embraced ambition. Many abandoned centuries of discipline overnight. For a species that built its civilization upon emotional control, the consequences were catastrophic. On QNOS, Klingon warriors became increasingly savage. Honor disappeared. Only bloodlust remained. On Romulus, political factions devolved into open civil war. Across Cardassian space, military leaders declared themselves chosen prophets of the coming darkness. The galaxy wasn't being conquered. It was being poisoned from within. And every day the infection grew stronger. Then another impossible event occurred. Q returned. This time he didn't appear before Picard. He appeared before the Continuum itself. The immortal realm existed beyond conventional space and time. A place where the Q had ruled for eons. A place untouched by mortal concerns. Or so they believed. Q emerged before countless members of his species. Many dismissed the crisis. Others mocked him. One ancient Q laughed openly. "You're frightened of a demon?" Several members joined the amusement. To them, mortality itself was a joke. Nothing threatened the Continuum. Nothing ever had. Until the laughter stopped. Without warning, the sky above the Continuum split open. Not metaphorically. Literally. The impossible heavens cracked. A gigantic red eye appeared beyond the fracture. Watching. The entire Continuum froze. Something impossible had happened. Something had found them. The eye blinked once. Reality shook. A younger Q screamed as his existence abruptly vanished. Not killed. Not erased. Gone. Every memory. Every timeline. Every version. Removed completely. Panic erupted. The Continuum had never experienced panic. Not once. Not in billions of years. Yet now immortal beings fled in terror. The eye remained. Observing. Curious. Like a predator examining insects. Then a voice echoed throughout their realm. The same voice heard across countless worlds. But this time it carried amusement. At last, the fracture closed. Silence followed. And the Q realized a horrifying truth. Trigon had not entered their universe. Not fully. That had merely been his attention. A tiny fragment of awareness. A glance. And a single glance had wounded the Continuum. Back in Federation space, the situation deteriorated further. Section 31 uncovered disturbing evidence hidden within classified archives. Records so old that even Starfleet barely remembered them. Ancient encounters. Ancient anomalies. Ancient legends. Scattered references across thousands of years. Different cultures. Different species. Different galaxies. Yet all describing the same thing. A red giant. A devourer of realities. A cosmic destroyer. The oldest known account predated recorded history itself. Older than the Federation. Older than Vulcan civilization. Older than almost everything. The report contained only a single translated sentence. The demon hunts the heart between universes. Again. The heart. Always the heart. Somehow every clue led back to it. But before investigators could continue, another catastrophe struck. The wormhole. The celestial temple. The sacred gateway connecting quadrants. Exploded. Not destroyed. But the crimson vortex expanded beyond control. Hundreds of times larger than normal. Thousands of ships immediately responded. Federation fleets. Klingon fleets. Romulan fleets. All arriving together. All witnessing the same impossible sight. Something was emerging. A hand. A gigantic crimson hand larger than planets. Its claws stretched through the wormhole. Reality shattered around its fingers. Starships looked microscopic by comparison. Weapons fired. Phasers. Disruptors. Quantum torpedoes. Nothing mattered. The hand continued moving. Slowly. Inevitably. And somewhere inside the celestial temple, the prophets screamed. For the first time in their existence, beings beyond time were losing a battle. Sisko watched helplessly as the hand pushed farther into reality. But then he noticed something. A symbol burned into the flesh. An ancient mark. One that matched the oldest records discovered by Section 31. The mark of the first heart. And suddenly Benjamin Sisko realized the terrifying truth. Trigon wasn't searching anymore. After crossing countless universes. After consuming entire realities, after hunting through existence itself, he had finally found what he came for. And the moment his hand fully entered the Star Trek universe, the real war would begin. What if the greatest secret in the Star Trek universe was not hidden inside a starship, a superweapon, or an ancient civilization, but inside reality itself, and Trigon had finally come to claim it? The moment the colossal crimson hand emerged from the wormhole, every major power in the galaxy understood a terrifying truth. Everything that had happened so far had merely been the prelude. The disappearing star systems, the nightmares, the madness, the collapse of governments, the corruption spreading through countless worlds. Those weren't the invasion. Those were the shadows cast before the arrival of something much worse. For the first time, every sensor array across Deep Space Nine captured a measurable reading from Trigon's physical form. The results shattered scientific understanding. His hand existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. It possessed mass and yet defied physics. It occupied space while also extending beyond space. Even worse, every second the hand remained inside the universe, local reality became weaker. Space itself was beginning to tear apart. Admirals, scientists, and commanders gathered aboard emergency conference channels. Nobody argued anymore. The Federation, the Klingon, the Romulans, even surviving Cardassian leadership. The old rivalries suddenly seemed meaningless, because they were no longer discussing borders. They were discussing existence. If that thing enters completely, one Vulcan scientist said, the consequences cannot be calculated. Martok's voice thundered through the chamber. Then we cut it off. A Romulan commander laughed bitterly. With what? No one had an answer. Because every weapon fired at the hand had failed. Quantum torpedoes detonated harmlessly. Disruptor blasts vanished. Even experimental graviton weapons accomplished nothing. The hand simply continued emerging. Steadily. Patiently. Like a mountain rising from the sea. And then the first finger touched normal space. Thousands of observers witnessed the moment. The effect was immediate. A nearby moon ceased existing. No explosion. No debris. No energy release. One moment it occupied orbit. The next it was gone. Removed from reality. Entirely. Millions watching the live feed fell silent. The demonstration required no explanation. If a fingertip could erase a moon, what would happen when the rest arrived? Far away, inside the fractured realm of the Q Continuum, panic continued spreading among immortals. The Q had always viewed themselves as untouchable, superior, eternal. Now those assumptions were collapsing. Several factions argued for intervention. Others argued for retreat. Many simply wanted to hide. Q himself stood before the remains of a damaged cosmic structure. A monument that had existed since before many galaxies formed. Now it was cracked, broken, wounded by nothing more than Trigon's attention. An elderly member of the Continuum approached him. What do we do? The question felt surreal. A Q asking for guidance. Q stared into the distance. The same thing everyone else does. And what is that? For several moments he said nothing. Then he answered quietly. Hope we're not noticed. Meanwhile, Benjamin Sisko continued searching for answers inside the celestial temple. The prophets were weakening. The timeless realm around them deteriorated further each day. Entire sections of their existence vanished into darkness. The cracks spread endlessly. And somewhere beyond those fractures, something enormous was moving closer. Sisko could feel it. The prophets could feel it. Even time itself seemed aware. Yet one mystery remained unresolved. The first heart. The object of Trigon's obsession. The source of everything. At last, one of the prophets revealed part of the truth. Images filled Sisko's mind. He saw the birth of universes. Not stars. Not galaxies. Universes. He watched existence emerge from a primordial ocean beyond reality. Infinite possibilities taking shape. Infinite timelines branching outward. And at the center of that process existed a singular force. A living spark. The origin point from which realities were born. The first heart. Sisko struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. The prophets explained. The heart creates. Creates what? Everything. The answer nearly stopped his own heart. Everything. Stars. Dimensions. Time. Life. Possibility itself. Every reality emerged from fragments of the first heart's power. Then another realization struck him. If Trigon obtained it, he wouldn't merely conquer universes. He could rewrite them. Reshape them. Destroy and recreate existence according to his will. Sisko felt cold. What happens if he succeeds? The prophets answered immediately. There will be no future. The simplicity of the statement made it even more terrifying. No future. Not destruction. Not death. An end to possibility itself. Every tomorrow erased forever. At that exact moment, another crisis erupted. The Borg had returned. Or rather, something resembling the Borg. Deep within former collective territory, surviving drones began reconnecting. Signals reappeared. Transwarp corridors activated. Entire fleets emerged from hiding. At first the galaxy hoped the Borg had recovered. Then long-range scans arrived. The vessels were different. Their metal had transformed into black organic matter. Their structures pulsed like living flesh. And every drone carried glowing crimson eyes. The Borg had not recovered. They had been corrupted. Assimilated by Trigon's influence. A nightmare fusion of technology and demonic power. The new collective attacked immediately. World after world fell. Not because they were stronger than before. Because their victims willingly surrendered. Entire populations opened planetary shields. They welcomed the corrupted drones. Smiling. Laughing. Celebrating. As though greeting liberators. The psychological infection had evolved. People no longer feared Trigon. Many loved him. That realization horrified Starfleet more than any battle report. You could fight an enemy. You could not easily fight devotion. The situation worsened when former Borg vessels reached Federation borders. Massive engagements erupted across multiple sectors. Starfleet fought desperately. Thousands died. Entire fleets vanished. And still the corrupted collective advanced. Every victory felt temporary. Every defeat felt permanent. Then came another shock. A message. Not from Trigon. From someone inside Trigon's influence. A former Borg queen. Or whatever she had become. Her transmission appeared simultaneously on millions of screens throughout known space. The figure stared directly into the camera. Crimson energy burned behind her eyes. Yet her voice sounded calm. Almost peaceful. Why resist? Across countless worlds, billions watched. The universe fears its destiny. She smiled. A new age approaches. Behind her appeared images of impossible beauty. Worlds free from war. Species united. Suffering erased. Pain eliminated. Every dream fulfilled. It looked perfect. Many viewers found themselves tempted. Then the illusion shifted. The paradise transformed into horror. The smiling citizens possessed glowing red eyes. The skies burned. Stars died overhead. And towering above the entire scene stood Trigon. The Queen continued speaking. He offers freedom. Millions listened. Millions believed. Then she delivered the most disturbing revelation yet. He already possesses part of the heart. The transmission ended. Shockwaves spread across every government. Part of the heart? What did that mean? How could Trigon already possess a fragment? And if he did, how close was he to victory? Hours later, Benjamin Sisko discovered the answer. Hidden within the deepest layers of the celestial temple. Buried beneath realities. Concealed from time itself. The prophets revealed a secret they had guarded since the birth of the universe. The first heart had never remained whole. Long ago it fractured, scattering pieces across existence. Most remained hidden. Some were lost. One fragment had become something extraordinary. Something familiar. Something that had existed in the Star Trek universe since the beginning. When Sisko finally saw what the fragment had become, his blood ran cold. Because the fragment wasn't an object. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a place. It was a living being. And at that very moment, somewhere in the galaxy, that being had just fallen under Trigon's influence. The first piece of the heart had been claimed. And Trigon was smiling. What if the greatest secret in the Star Trek universe was not hidden inside a starship, a superweapon, or an ancient civilization, but inside reality itself, and Trigon had finally come to claim it? The moment the colossal crimson hand emerged from the wormhole, every major power in the galaxy understood a terrifying truth. Everything that had happened so far had merely been the prelude. The disappearing star systems. The nightmares. The madness. The collapse of governments. The corruption spreading through countless worlds. Those weren't the invasion. Those were the shadows cast before the arrival of something much worse. For the first time, every sensor array across Deep Space Nine captured a measurable reading from Trigon's physical form. The results shattered scientific understanding. His hand existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. It possessed mass and yet defied physics. It occupied space while also extending beyond space. Even worse, Every second the hand remained inside the universe, local reality became weaker. Space itself was beginning to tear apart. Admirals, scientists, and commanders gathered aboard emergency conference channels. Nobody argued anymore. The Federation, the Klingon, the Romulans, even surviving Cardassian leadership. The old rivalries suddenly seemed meaningless, because they were no longer discussing borders. They were discussing existence. If that thing enters completely, one Vulcan scientist said, the consequences cannot be calculated. Martok's voice thundered through the chamber. Then we cut it off. A Romulan commander laughed bitterly. With what? No one had an answer. Because every weapon fired at the hand had failed. Quantum torpedoes detonated harmlessly. Disruptor blasts vanished. Even experimental graviton weapons accomplished nothing. The hand simply continued emerging. Steadily. Patiently. Like a mountain rising from the sea. And then the first finger touched normal space. Thousands of observers witnessed the moment. The effect was immediate. A nearby moon ceased existing. No explosion. No debris. No energy release. One moment it occupied orbit. The next it was gone. Removed from reality. Entirely. Millions watching the live feed fell silent. The demonstration required no explanation. If a fingertip could erase a moon, what would happen when the rest arrived? Far away, inside the fractured realm of the Q Continuum, panic continued spreading among immortals. The Q had always viewed themselves as untouchable, superior, eternal. Now those assumptions were collapsing. Several factions argued for intervention. Others argued for retreat. Many simply wanted to hide. Q himself stood before the remains of a damaged cosmic structure. A monument that had existed since before many galaxies formed. Now it was cracked, broken, wounded by nothing more than Trigon's attention. An elderly member of the Continuum approached him. What do we do? The question felt surreal. A Q asking for guidance. Q stared into the distance. The same thing everyone else does. And what is that? For several moments he said nothing. Then he answered quietly. Hope we're not noticed. Meanwhile, Benjamin Sisko continued searching for answers inside the celestial temple. The prophets were weakening. The timeless realm around them deteriorated further each day. Entire sections of their existence vanished into darkness. The cracks spread endlessly. And somewhere beyond those fractures, something enormous was moving closer. Sisko could feel it. The prophets could feel it. Even time itself seemed aware. Yet one mystery remained unresolved. The first heart. The object of Trigon's obsession. The source of everything. At last, one of the prophets revealed part of the truth. Images filled Sisko's mind. He saw the birth of universes. Not stars. Not galaxies. Universes. He watched existence emerge from a primordial ocean beyond reality. Infinite possibilities taking shape. Infinite timelines branching outward. And at the center of that process existed a singular force. A living spark. The origin point from which realities were born. The first heart. Sisko struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. The prophets explained. The heart creates. Creates what? Everything. The answer nearly stopped his own heart. Everything. Stars. Dimensions. Time. Life. Possibility itself. Every reality emerged from fragments of the first heart's power. Then another realization struck him. If Trigon obtained it, he wouldn't merely conquer universes. He could rewrite them. Reshape them. Destroy and recreate existence according to his will. Sisko felt cold. What happens if he succeeds? The prophets answered immediately. There will be no future. The simplicity of the statement made it even more terrifying. No future. Not destruction. Not death. An end to possibility itself. Every tomorrow erased forever. At that exact moment, another crisis erupted. The Borg had returned. Or rather, something resembling the Borg. Deep within former collective territory, surviving drones began reconnecting. Signals reappeared. Transwarp corridors activated. Entire fleets emerged from hiding. At first the galaxy hoped the Borg had recovered. Then long-range scans arrived. The vessels were different. Their metal had transformed into black organic matter. Their structures pulsed like living flesh. And every drone carried glowing crimson eyes. The Borg had not recovered. They had been corrupted. Assimilated by Trigon's influence. A nightmare fusion of technology and demonic power. The new collective attacked immediately. World after world fell. Not because they were stronger than before. Because their victims willingly surrendered. Entire populations opened planetary shields. They welcomed the corrupted drones, smiling, laughing, celebrating, as though greeting liberators. The psychological infection had evolved. People no longer feared Trigon. Many loved him. That realization horrified Starfleet more than any battle report. You could fight an enemy. You could not easily fight devotion. The situation worsened when former Borg vessels reached Federation borders. Massive engagements erupted across multiple sectors. Starfleet fought desperately. Thousands died. Entire fleets vanished. And still the corrupted collective advanced. Every victory felt temporary. Every defeat felt permanent. Then came another shock. A message. Not from Trigon. From someone inside Trigon's influence. A former Borg queen. Or whatever she had become. Her transmission appeared simultaneously on millions of screens throughout known space. The figure stared directly into the camera. Crimson energy burned behind her eyes. Yet her voice sounded calm. Almost peaceful. Why resist? Across countless worlds, billions watched. The universe fears its destiny. She smiled. A new age approaches. Behind her appeared images of impossible beauty. Worlds free from war. Species united. Suffering erased. Pain eliminated. Every dream fulfilled. It looked perfect. Many viewers found themselves tempted. Then the illusion shifted. The paradise transformed into horror. The smiling citizens possessed glowing red eyes. The skies burned. Stars died overhead. And towering above the entire scene stood Trigon. The Queen continued speaking. He offers freedom. Millions listened. Millions believed. Then she delivered the most disturbing revelation yet. He already possesses part of the heart. The transmission ended. Shockwaves spread across every government. Part of the heart? What did that mean? How could Trigon already possess a fragment? And if he did, how close was he to victory? Hours later, Benjamin Sisko discovered the answer. Hidden within the deepest layers of the celestial temple. Buried beneath realities. Concealed from time itself. The prophets revealed a secret they had guarded since the birth of the universe. The first heart had never remained whole. Long ago it fractured, scattering pieces across existence. Most remained hidden. Some were lost. One fragment had become something extraordinary. Something familiar. Something that had existed in the Star Trek universe since the beginning. When Sisko finally saw what the fragment had become, his blood ran cold. Because the fragment wasn't an object. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a place. It was a living being. And at that very moment, somewhere in the galaxy, that being had just fallen under Trigon's influence. The first piece of the heart had been claimed. And Trigon was smiling. What if the moment Trigon finally entered the Star Trek universe was not the beginning of the apocalypse? But the moment he revealed that everything happening so far had merely been a test. The sight of him froze entire fleets. Thousands of ships. Millions of soldiers. The combined military strength of civilizations that had dominated the galaxy for centuries. And none of it mattered. Against Trigon they looked insignificant. Tiny sparks drifting before a living storm. His colossal form loomed beyond the wormhole, partially anchored between dimensions. Reality warped around him with every movement. Entire regions of space twisted like liquid glass. Stars flickered. Planets trembled. Yet what frightened everyone most was not his size. It was his calmness. He wasn't angry. He wasn't struggling. He wasn't even trying. The destruction spreading across the galaxy was happening almost accidentally. A side effect of his presence. Like heat radiating from a star. Deep Space Nine shook violently as shockwaves rolled through the sector. Emergency systems activated. Structural integrity fields strained to their limits. Still, Trigon never looked away from Benjamin Sisko. The emissary felt the fragment inside him responding. Pulsing. Awakening. For years he had carried this power unknowingly. Now it was reacting to its ancient enemy. The demon's voice echoed across space. I searched for you through countless realities. Every ship received the transmission. Every living being heard it. Not through speakers. Through their minds. I watched universes burn. The six eyes narrowed. I shattered gods. Another step forward. Reality screamed. I devoured dimensions. And then his smile widened. Yet here you are. Sisko stood motionless. For a moment he understood something horrifying. Trigon was genuinely pleased. This wasn't conquest. This was reunion. The demon had spent ages hunting the fragments of the first heart. And now he had finally found one. A fragment capable of completing his grand design. Across the battlefield, Starfleet commanders faced an impossible decision. Retreat. Negotiate. Nothing seemed rational. Yet someone acted. Worf. The Klingon warrior stepped onto the bridge of his flagship and stared at the impossible giant dominating the stars. Every instinct screamed that the battle could not be won. Every calculation confirmed it. But Klingon were not taught to surrender before impossible odds. They were taught to face them. He opened a fleet-wide channel. Today we face death. Thousands of Klingon vessels listened. Good. The warriors roared. Worf raised his bat'leth. Today we remind the galaxy what courage means. Then he gave the order. The largest Klingon assault in history began. Hundreds of warships accelerated toward Trigon. Disruptors fired. Photon torpedoes launched. Entire formations surged forward. Starfleet vessels joined moments later. Then Romulans. Then Cardassians. For one brief moment, enemies became allies. A united galaxy charged into battle. The visual spectacle was breathtaking. Millions of weapons illuminated space. Energy beams crossed the darkness. Explosions erupted everywhere. Against any known threat, the assault would have been overwhelming. Against Trigon, it achieved nothing. The attack struck his body and vanished. Not absorbed. Not deflected. Simply rendered irrelevant. Like raindrops hitting a mountain. Trigon barely noticed. Then he raised one hand. A simple gesture. Nothing more. Thousands of ships instantly lost power. Weapons failed. Engines died. Shields collapsed. Entire fleets drifted helplessly through space. The battle ended before it truly began. And Trigon had used less effort than a person uses to blink. The psychological impact shattered morale across the galaxy. People had hoped. Perhaps not expected victory. But hoped resistance mattered. Now they weren't sure. Meanwhile, inside the Celestial Temple, the prophets made a desperate decision. For billions of years they had remained observers. Guides. Guardians of possibility. Now observation was no longer enough. The surviving prophets gathered what remained of their strength. Fragments of timeless energy converged. Ancient powers awakened. And for the first time in their existence, the prophets prepared for war. Across the wormhole, brilliant light erupted. The crimson corruption retreated momentarily. Golden energy surged outward. The Celestial Temple itself was fighting back. Every observer watched in astonishment. The wormhole transformed into a battlefield between cosmic forces. Red darkness collided with radiant light. Reality fractured repeatedly. Entire timelines appeared and disappeared within seconds. Possible futures died. New futures emerged. The struggle transcended conventional understanding. And for a brief moment, Trigon stopped smiling. The prophets had finally earned his attention. The demon turned toward the Celestial Temple. Still resisting. His voice carried almost affectionate disappointment. You always choose the difficult path. The prophets answered. Their collective voice thundered across existence. You shall not claim the heart. Stars flickered. Dimensions trembled. Trigon laughed. The sound alone extinguished 3 distant suns. I already have. Then he opened his hand. Everyone watched. Inside his palm floated a glowing crystal fragment. Small. Beautiful. Radiating infinite energy. A fragment of the first heart. Gasps echoed across command centers. He truly possessed one. The Queen had spoken the truth. And judging by the power radiating from it, he had possessed it for a very long time. The prophets reacted with visible horror. Their light dimmed. Their confidence shattered. Trigon's grin widened. You believed this universe held the first fragment I found? The realization spread through everyone simultaneously. No, he hadn't started here. This hunt had been going on for ages. How many realities had fallen already? How many fragments had he collected? How close was he to completion? No one wanted the answer. Especially when Trigon revealed it himself. Only one remains. Silence. Absolute silence. Every fleet, every government, every civilization stared in disbelief. One fragment remained. One. And it existed inside Benjamin Sisko. The entire universe suddenly felt very small. Trigon extended his hand toward Deep Space Nine. The gesture appeared slow. Yet distances collapsed instantly. The giant hand approached the station. Space folded around it. Defense systems fired automatically. Pointless. The hand continued moving. Closer. Closer. Sisko felt the fragment within him awakening completely. Pain surged through his body. Visions exploded inside his mind. He saw countless universes. Countless timelines. Countless versions of reality. Many already dead. Consumed. Erased. In every vision, Trigon stood victorious. But then Sisko noticed something unusual. One future differed. Just one. A single timeline among infinite possibilities. A future where Trigon failed. The glimpse lasted less than a second. Yet it was enough. Enough to understand one critical truth. The demon was not invincible. The path existed. Narrow. Almost impossible. But real. The emissary suddenly knew what had to happen. And the realization terrified him more than Trigon ever could. Because victory would require a sacrifice unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Before he could speak, the station shook violently. The giant hand reached Deep Space Nine. Its shadow covered the entire structure. Trigon's eyes burned brighter. The final fragment was within reach. The hunt spanning countless realities was about to end. And Benjamin Sisko finally understood that if he chose the path that could save existence, he would never see his family again. What if the only way to save every civilization, every timeline, and every future was for Benjamin Sisko to willingly erase himself from existence? The realization struck him with brutal clarity. There was no miracle coming. No hidden fleet. No ancient weapon waiting to be discovered. No last-minute intervention from the Q Continuum. The path he had glimpsed existed. But it demanded a price. And that price was him. The giant hand of Trigon hovered around Deep Space Nine like a celestial executioner's blade. Entire sections of the station buckled under the pressure of his presence alone. Systems failed. Bulkheads warped. The stars themselves seemed dimmer. All around the galaxy, billions watched. And for the first time since Trigon's arrival, the demon looked genuinely eager. Not triumphant. Not amused. Eager. As if after an endless journey he was finally about to reach the finish line. Inside Ops, Sisko stood silently. Kira looked at him. What did you see? He didn't answer immediately. Because he wasn't looking at the tactical displays. Or the approaching hand. Or the collapsing wormhole. He was looking at Jake. A memory. His son laughing on the promenade years ago. A baseball game. A family dinner. The ordinary moments. The moments that suddenly felt priceless. Picard stepped closer. Benjamin. Sisko finally looked at him. There is a way. Hope flickered across the room. For exactly 3 seconds. Then Sisko continued. And I don't survive it. The hope vanished. No one spoke. No one wanted to. Janeway understood first. Her expression darkened. The fragment. Sisko nodded. The final piece must never reach him. Worf folded his arms. Then destroy it. I can't. Why? The answer chilled everyone. Because it's connected to creation itself. Silence returned. Destroying the fragment would damage reality. Perhaps permanently. Perhaps catastrophically. No one knew. The first heart wasn't merely a source of power. It was one of the foundations upon which existence rested. Sisko turned toward the viewport. The giant hand continued approaching. But there is another option. Picard already knew he wasn't going to like it. What option? Sisko took a slow breath. If I take the fragment beyond the boundaries of existence. Janeway's eyes widened. No. If I leave this universe entirely. No. Trigon loses the final piece forever. Kira stepped forward. No. Her voice cracked. For the first time since the crisis began, she looked frightened. Not for the galaxy. For him. You don't know that. The prophets do. Then they'll find another way. They already looked. The words hit harder than any explosion. The prophets had searched. Across time. Across possibility. Across countless futures. And this was all they found. The only path. Outside, Trigon's hand closed around Deep Space Nine. The station groaned. Structural alarms erupted. Several outer sections collapsed instantly. Thousands evacuated. Thousands more couldn't. The clock was running out. Far away, within the shattered Q Continuum, another impossible event unfolded. The surviving Q had finally made their decision. For the first time in their incomprehensibly long existence, they would intervene directly. Hundreds of immortal beings gathered together. Power accumulated. Reality trembled. Even wounded, the Continuum remained one of the most powerful forces ever known. If they acted as one, perhaps they could buy time. Perhaps. The lead Q looked toward the mortal universe. Ready? No one answered. Because no one knew whether this would work. The Continuum unleashed its power. Across existence, golden light erupted. Thousands of dimensions connected simultaneously. Infinite energy converged, and for the first time since arriving, Trigon reacted. The demon turned away from Deep Space Nine. His eyes narrowed. The Q attack struck. The collision illuminated entire galaxies. Civilizations hundreds of thousands of light-years away witnessed the flash. Space folded. Time fractured. Entire reality shook. For one incredible moment, Trigon staggered. The galaxy erupted with hope. The impossible had happened. He moved. He actually moved. The Q pushed harder. More power. More force. More energy than most universes would ever contain. The demon took another step backward. Then another. For the first time, victory seemed conceivable. Then Trigon smiled. A sad smile. Almost disappointed. You still do not understand. He raised one hand. The attack vanished. Just vanished. The combined might of the continuum disappeared like smoke. Several Qs ceased existing instantly. Others fled. The survivors retreated in horror. And the brief spark of hope died. The universe had thrown one of its strongest defenders at Trigon. It wasn't enough. Nothing seemed enough. Inside the celestial temple, the prophets gathered around Sisko one final time. The timeless realm was collapsing. Huge sections had already been consumed by darkness. Soon nothing would remain. The prophets showed him the future once more. Not every future. Just the important one. He saw Trigon succeed. The final fragment absorbed. The first heart restored. Reality rewritten. Stars transformed into prisons. Life converted into extensions of Trigon's will. Entire universes chained together beneath an eternal demonic empire. No freedom. No growth. No possibility. Only obedience. Forever. Then they showed him the alternative. The sacrifice. He saw himself carrying the fragment beyond reality's edge. Past dimensions. Past time. Past existence itself. A place where neither Trigon nor any other being could follow. The cost was absolute. No return. No rescue. No reunion. Jake. Cassidy. His friends. His life. Gone. He would become a guardian beyond creation. Alone. Forever. The vision ended. The prophets remained silent. Because there was nothing left to say. Sisko already knew. Back in normal space, Trigon's hand crushed another section of Deep Space Nine. The station was dying. The final confrontation had arrived. Sisko returned to Ops. Everyone understood immediately. The decision had been made. Kira's eyes filled with tears. Picard lowered his head. Janeway stared silently at the floor. Even Worf seemed unable to find words. Sisko looked at each of them. One final time. Then he smiled. A small smile. A human smile. Not an emissary. Not a chosen one. Just Benjamin Sisko. I've had a good life. Nobody knew how to answer that. Outside, Trigon's 6 eyes burned brighter. The demon sensed what was happening. For the first time since arriving, genuine concern appeared across his face. The final fragment was moving. Moving somewhere he could not easily reach. His voice thundered across the universe. No. Stars exploded. Galaxies shook. The sheer force of his anger wounded reality. But for the first time, Trigon was afraid. And Benjamin Sisko realized something astonishing. The demon who consumed the stars had spent ages hunting the first heart. He had conquered realities, destroyed gods, broken dimensions. Yet now, at the very edge of victory, he was terrified of losing. The final battle was about to begin. And for the first time since Trigon entered the Star Trek universe, hope returned. What if the final battle against Trigon was never meant to be won through strength, but through a choice that no conqueror could ever understand? Across the galaxy, hope and despair collided. Billions watched as reality itself approached its breaking point. The stars trembled. The wormhole bled crimson fire. Deep Space Nine crumbled beneath the pressure of a cosmic war that transcended space, time, and imagination. And at the center of it all stood Benjamin Sisko. Not a fleet commander. Not a warrior. Not a god. Just a man preparing to give up everything. Trigon understood it now. The fragment was slipping away. After an eternity of hunting. After consuming realities beyond counting. After gathering every other piece of the first heart. The final fragment was about to be lost. And for the first time in ages, the great demon panicked. His roar shattered entire sectors of space. Thousands of distant stars went dark. Planets experienced earthquakes. Subspace ruptured across multiple quadrants. The force of his fury alone threatened to destroy civilization. I will not be denied. The words echoed through every mind in existence. Fear followed. Not ordinary fear. Primal fear. The kind buried inside the deepest layers of consciousness. The fear of standing before something utterly unstoppable. Yet despite it all, Benjamin Sisko continued forward. The fragment within him burned brighter with every step. Golden light spread through his body. The power of the first heart awakened completely. Around him, time itself began behaving strangely. Past, present, future. They merged. He saw Jake as a child. Jake as an old man. Jake in futures that would never exist. He saw Cassidy smiling. Kira laughing. Picard standing on the bridge of the Enterprise. Entire lifetimes unfolding simultaneously. The universe was saying goodbye. The prophets opened the path. A doorway appeared within the collapsing celestial temple. Not a wormhole. Not a portal. Something deeper. A passage beyond existence itself. A threshold no mortal had ever crossed. Beyond it lay nothing. Not darkness. Not emptiness. Nothing. The place outside creation. The place where possibility ended. The one location Trigon could not easily reach. The demon saw it, and his fury became absolute. For the first time since arriving, he abandoned all restraint. His full power erupted. The stars screamed. Entire reality shook violently. Fragments of distant universes became visible through cracks opening in space. Civilizations witnessed impossible visions. Infinite timelines collapsing. Dimensions colliding. Existence unraveling. Trigon moved. Not slowly. Not patiently. He surged forward. A cosmic avalanche of destruction. Everything between him and Sisko vanished. Ships. Asteroids. Entire regions of space. Gone. Consumed instantly. The surviving fleets launched one final attack. Not because they believed they could win. Because they needed to buy seconds. Just seconds. Picard led the charge. Janeway beside him. Worf commanding what remained of the Klingon fleet. Romulan warbirds. Cardassian cruisers. Federation starships. The last defenders of the galaxy. Together. United. Their weapons illuminated the darkness. Countless beams of energy struck Trigon. The attack still could not hurt him. But they distracted him. For a moment. A single precious moment. And that moment mattered. Deep inside the shattered Q Continuum, the surviving immortals made their own final choice. No speeches. No debates. No hesitation. Every remaining Q joined together. One last time. Their combined power surged across existence. Not to defeat Trigon. They now understood that was impossible. Instead they strengthened the doorway. Holding it open. Stabilizing it. Giving Sisko a chance. Many would cease to exist as a result. None cared. For perhaps the first time in their history, the Q acted selflessly. Trigon noticed. His rage intensified. But it was too late. The doorway stabilized. The path was open. Sisko turned back one final time. The universe stretched behind him. His home. His friends. His life. Everything he loved. Kira stood among the survivors. Tears streaming down her face. Picard looked at him with silent respect. Janeway nodded. Worf placed a fist over his heart. Even the prophets watched. The entire galaxy seemed to pause. Waiting. Sisko smiled. Not because he was fearless. Not because he accepted the sacrifice. Because he finally understood something Trigon never would. The value of existence was not power. It was connection. Love. Hope. Choice. The things Trigon could never consume. The things he could never truly understand. And that ignorance would be his defeat. The emissary stepped toward the doorway. Trigon lunged. Space shattered beneath him. His claws reached forward. The distance vanished. For one terrifying second it seemed he might succeed. His fingertips nearly touched Sisko. Nearly. Then Benjamin Sisko crossed the threshold. The doorway closed. Silence. Absolute silence. The fragment vanished. Gone beyond creation. Gone beyond Trigon's reach. Gone forever. The universe held its breath. The demon froze. For the first time in countless ages, Trigon looked genuinely shocked. Then came the realization. The hunt was over. And he had lost. A sound emerged from him. Not rage. Not hatred. Something far rarer. Grief. After pursuing victory across endless realities, he had failed at the final moment. The first heart would never be complete. His dream of absolute dominion had ended. The galaxy watched. Waiting for retaliation. Waiting for destruction. Waiting for the universe itself to die. Instead, something unexpected happened. The first heart reacted. Without its final fragment present, the collected pieces within Trigon became unstable. The power he had gathered began resisting him. Creation itself rejected his control. Cracks spread across his body. Golden light erupted through the fractures. The demon roared, this time in pain. The heart was breaking free. Every fragment he had stolen awakened simultaneously. Countless realities echoed with the same surge of energy. Universes he had consumed began returning. Timelines reappeared. Lost possibilities resurfaced. Existence fought back. And for the first time, Trigon was losing. The cracks expanded. His colossal form destabilized. Stars reignited. Dimensions healed. The wormhole slowly returned to its natural state. The prophet strengthened. The surviving Q recovered. Across the galaxy, Trigon's corruption began fading. The possessed regained control. The corrupted Borg collapsed. The whispers vanished. Hope returned. Trigon looked around as his empire unraveled. And in that moment, the demon who consumed the stars understood the truth. Power could destroy. Power could dominate. Power could terrify. But power alone could never possess creation. Because creation belonged to those willing to sacrifice for it. Not those willing to enslave it. His body fractured completely. Millions of pieces of crimson light scattered across the cosmos. Cast into countless dimensions. Separated. Imprisoned. Unable to reunite. Perhaps not forever. But for a very long time. The threat was over. Slowly, reality stabilized. The wounds began healing. The stars shone normally once more. The war was finished. Months later, the galaxy continued rebuilding. Civilizations recovered. Alliances strengthened. Old enemies remembered how close they had come to extinction. The story of the final battle spread across every quadrant. The tale of the emissary who saved existence. The man who walked beyond reality. The guardian beyond creation. Jake Sisko often visited the wormhole. He never expected answers. Yet sometimes he felt something. A presence. A familiar warmth. As though somewhere impossibly far away, his father was still watching. Still protecting. Still standing guard. And beyond the boundaries of existence, where no star had ever shined and no life had ever walked, Benjamin Sisko remained at his post. Alone. Yet not lonely. Because before him stretched an endless horizon of unborn possibilities. Future universes. Future stories. Future dreams. The things he had sacrificed everything to protect. And somewhere in the infinite distance, he could still hear the heartbeat of creation. Steady. Alive. Free. The first heart continued to beat. The stars continued to shine. And because one man chose sacrifice over power, the Star Trek universe endured. For now. And far beyond the edge of reality, where even time could not reach, Benjamin Sisko smiled as a new galaxy was born.